Hello students, welcome to La Excellence. Welcome to the session on India Yearbook 2017. We are in the third session where we'll be seeing the 11th chapter, that is energy. I'll be taking 5 chapters at a time and we'll be seeing those important topics which are there within these 5 chapters. Energy, though it is important from geography point of view, some factual information what has actually happened in the last 1 or 2 years is also important for us to focus. So to begin with, they actually give you a historical information about the power supply which started in Darjeeling during 1897, followed by commissioning of a hydro power station at Shivanasamudram in Karnataka during 1902. This factual information may be asked sometimes, so please be prepared with that. That is, first was in Darjeeling, the second was in Karnataka, the Shivanasamudram project. Very, very important, just in case if they ask you a question. So the next important thing is actually in the next page where they are focusing on ultra mega power projects. When we are looking at ultra mega power projects, that is wherever the capacity is more than 4000 megawatt, we actually call it to be ultra mega power project. Within this, we need to remember the 4 important ultra mega power projects, that is Sasan in Madhya Pradesh, Mundra in Gujarat, Krishnapatnam in Andhra Pradesh and Tilaiya in Jharkhand. These are very important. They may ask you in match the following. Next, in page 257, the question can be with respect to rural electrification. What are the different measures taken by the government to ensure that electricity reaches to everyone? We are talking about 24/7 electricity throughout India, and that will be possible only when we can achieve rural electrification. So what are the different schemes of the government? Rural electrification under minimum needs program, Pradhan Mantri Gramodaya Yojana. These two are very, very important, where the earlier programs are merged into this. Here you can see the scheme has been discontinued from 2004 and has been subsequently merged with the new Rajiv Gandhi Gramin Vidyutikaran Yojana. Again, even this is gone. Let's see what exactly is this. Then we have Kutir Jyoti scheme, where the focus is actually on giving single point light connections to households to rural families below the poverty line was also very, very important, right? They may ask you different electricity projects, or whenever it is in mains, if you have to write points, this will be easy. Accelerated rural electrification program and accelerated electrification of 1 lakh villages and 1 crore households. These were different schemes of the government at different point of time. It's important to know all these schemes, but if you can write it and show that which has worked and which has not worked, it will be beneficial for you in mains. Then the most important yojana or scheme is actually with respect to UDAY, Ujjwal Discom Assurance Yojana. As you are all aware, even in India Yearbook, I was talking about the state debts will increase if they focus more or fund more to the Ujjwal Discom Assurance Yojana. This is very, very important for us. And in this, the main focus is on providing accessible 24/7 power for all. And here the focus is also on improving the entire value chain from fuel supply to generation, transmission, consumption, bulbs distributed, etc. So it's very, very important for us to read about UDAY. Definitely, any time there can be a question about UDAY, whether it is in prelims or mains. Guys, please be careful. This paragraph and the next paragraph, which actually talks about what is the role or what exactly it aims, can be asked at any time. Please read this once carefully and try to ensure that you revise. Some schemes like Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat, UDAY, all these are some of the major programs of this government, and high possibility questions can come about this. Next important thing is OVL has oil and gas production from 10 projects, where they were actually focusing Russia, Sakhalin-1 and Imperial Energy. This place on the eastern side of Russia is important from geography through maps. Then Syria, Al-Furat Petroleum. Most of us don't know that OVL actually has oil fields in Syria. So it is important. They may ask you that OVL is working in Syria. Some of the current projects, it's not an old project currently. So it's very, very important. Then we have Vietnam, Colombia, Sudan, South Sudan, and this was the reason why Indians were actually brought out from South Sudan. So it's very important for you to remember these from OVL point of view, energy point of view, India's relationship. If you can remember this and write, it will be helpful. Then in page 270 itself, you have Oil India Limited, where you have to focus on in-country operations, where Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, Bihar, Andhra Pradesh, Puducherry, Andaman and Rajasthan. OIL has presence in 9 countries: Venezuela, Libya, Gabon, Iran, Nigeria, Yemen, Sudan, Timor-Leste and Egypt. So this is very, very important for us. Please try to ensure that you are actually going through this carefully. They may ask you where are oil present and you will be reading it in your geography, but still please try to know these places. Most of us are aware only of few areas, but when we actually look, there are several areas in India where petroleum, coal and all are available. So please be careful about these. So next, let's look at page 282, the first paragraph, which actually focuses on the biodiversity hotspot regions. That is Himalayas, Indo-Burma and the Western Ghats Sri Lanka region. This is very, very important for you, right? So they may ask you, where is this flowering plants usually present? So flowering and non-flowering plants are usually present in this region. This covers following biogeographical region: Western Himalayas, Eastern Himalayas, Northeast India, arid, semi-arid, Gangetic Plains, Deccan Peninsula, Western Ghats, coastal region and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. They may ask you this in prelims. Please be careful. I have already shown you the major realms and also biodiversity hotspots. This is important for you to remember this. So guys, in page 283, you have to focus on biodiversity conservation, where they actually give you a list of biological diversity conservations which are there across world, or different protocols which existed. So if in your environment and ecology, when you are reading, if you can revise these conventions, it is more than enough. So if we see, we have convention on biological diversity, and then we also have Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit. Then you can actually see that they talk about National Biodiversity Action Plan in India, which was signed with respect to the Biological Diversity Act. And then you have Nagoya Protocol for Access and Benefit Sharing. And then you have the Ministry Joint UNDP Managed Global Initiative on Biodiversity Finance Initiative. What exactly is this? They may ask you a question about it. The initiative is hosted by NBA. They may ask you what exactly is it? It is National Biodiversity Authority, right? So they may ask you, consider the following with respect to biofin. Right? One is, it is hosted by NBA and technical assistance is being provided by Wildlife Institute of India. Then you can see, and National Institute of Public Finance and Policy in implementation of biofin. The first national stakeholder consultation on biofin India was held in New Delhi in 2016. These two are very, very important. Biofin is very, very important this year. So just try to ensure that if at all they ask you about biofin, you know these factual information. Then management of mangroves and coral reefs is important. For the first time, India Yearbook has given a list of mangrove sites properly across the states. Just try to go through this carefully from geography through maps point of view and remember this. Right? After this, when you see mangroves, we are expecting question on this regularly, and now it is important because of the oil spill and other issues associated with mangroves. So when we talk about mangroves, I can show you one question which has already come, but let us see some of the points before that. Mangroves are plants that survive high salinity, tidal regimes, strong wind velocity, high temperature and muddy anaerobic soil. All these are actually seen with mangroves. Then the mangrove ecosystem constitutes a symbiotic link or bridge between terrestrial and marine ecosystem, right? So they may ask you these statements. I know you will be aware of it, but just try to read. For those people who have not read mangroves or geography carefully, it is important for you to know these lines. Then they are actually found in the intertidal zones, sheltered shores, estuaries, creeks, backwaters, lagoons, marshes and mudflats. And you should also be aware that mangroves are present on almost all the states which are coastal states of India, right? Mangrove vegetation has been reported in all the coastal states or union territories. India is home to some of the best mangroves in the world, and West Bengal has the maximum, followed by Gujarat and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So this question can be asked, so please be prepared, right? We are looking at two important things: the properties of mangroves, where it is present across all the states and union territories in India, and the other important thing is highest is in West Bengal, second in Gujarat, third in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Then the most important one is actually with respect to coral reefs. You can see 2014 question where they have actually asked where exactly coral reefs are present, and the options were these four. All the above was correct option. So please be careful. Whenever I told you if anything comes from India yearbook, it will be directly picked and asked. So you should be prepared for those lines, right? That is the reason we are spending enough time in showing you even simple lines which you would have read, because coral reefs, mangroves, I can assume that you would have already read in the geography, but I want to show you those lines even within the subjects which you have read, just to ensure that those questions you are not missing in the exam. Prelims is all about revision of those topics and also understanding that yes, I have already read about this, but I was not aware that this line can become a question. If we can know those lines properly, if we can revise it and write, then in the examination hall with confidence you can attend more number of questions. If you can avoid negatives, it is more than enough. And please remember, it is not those questions which you don't know where you do negatives, but it is those questions where you have doubt. You have read once, but without clarity when you are doing something, there is high possibility you do mistakes. This course or this lecture actually aims at helping you to reduce such negatives. This is the reason why I am spending enough time in identifying every line that can become a question for you. Then in page number 287, you have biodiversity conservation scheme related to biosafety, and the most important one is genetic engineering approval committee, where you have to actually focus. It was formed under Environmental Protection Act of 1986. This was prelims question in 2015. You can actually read it. This was given where they told GEAC is established under which act? It is Environmental Protection Act of 1986. Then in environment and ecology, you would have read about Cartagena Biosafety Protocol. Please go through this once more, both in your answers or environment and ecology notes and also from this. In page 288, you also have about Nagoya COP, which was supplementary to the above one, right? So it is very, very important for us to see these things in detail. If you have time, please try to go through this genetic engineering appraisal committee as well once. Then in page 290, we have to focus on Project Elephant, where they are actually talking about 29 notified and 2 proposed elephant reserves. They are in Khasi Hills Elephant Reserve in Meghalaya and Lemru Elephant Reserve in Chhattisgarh. This may be asked, so please be prepared and try to read this Project Elephant once. So next in page 292, we have to actually look at the control of air pollution. I have already told you air pollution is important this year. And guys, I just want to tell you one more thing. This chapter is the most important chapter. Every line in this chapter, if you read, it's not waste. You can use it at one place or the other. Control of air pollution, I have already shown in the magazine, but still I'll show you what are the factors that you need to remember. 1, 8 pollutants that you need to measure, right? So these are the 8 pollutions that you actually measure as per the National Ambient Air Quality Standards. And the second important thing is you are actually dividing them into several categories, namely good, satisfactory, moderately polluted, poor, very poor and severe. So these two you have to go through once carefully and you have to remember. I have also shown the color coding in the magazines. Please try to go through that as well. In page 294, this is what I was actually talking about, the different colors that are being given to different cities on the basis of air quality, red, orange, green and white category, right? And there you can see at last they talk about the scores. Industrial sectors having pollution index score of 60 and above, red category. Industrial sectors having pollution index score of 41 to 59, orange category. Industrial sectors having pollution index score of 21 to 40 is green category, and then you have white category. This can be asked in match the following. Air quality, air pollution is very, very important. 2, 1, the 8 things that is actually measured, and the second one is the categorization. Then in page 295 you have to look at the hazardous substances management. Within this there are some 5 major hazardous management. 1, Basel Convention on Control of Trans-Boundary Movement of Hazardous Waste and Their Disposal, Rotterdam Convention on Prior Informed Consent Procedure for Certain Chemicals and Pesticides, and Stockholm Convention on Persistent Organic Pollutants, Strategic Approach to International Chemicals Management, and Minamata Convention on Mercury. This can be matched the following for those who have not read Environment and Ecology. Then in page 298 you have fly ash utilization. It is very important for us to look at this. Already a question has been asked because they want to reduce the fly ash pollution as much as possible. They want to use it for other industries. So the question was, fly ash is used in which of the following industries? The reason for this particular one is that wherever the fly ash goes and deposits on the sand or soil particles, then water gets clogged. So water does not percolate down. That is why they want to avoid fly ash as much as possible. Then in page 300, second paragraph, you talk about conservation of lakes. Dal Lake in Jammu and Kashmir, Shivpuri and Sindh Sagar lakes in Madhya Pradesh, twin lakes at Mokokchung in Nagaland, Anna Sagar, Pushkar and Pichola lakes in Rajasthan, Ramgarh Thal and Lakshmi Thal in Uttar Pradesh. So they may ask you, match the following about these, where these lakes are present. This is how questions are being framed, guys. We fail to understand why questions on lakes came, and that too these lakes which we have never heard of. The reason is conservation of lakes program is there and the government is looking at it carefully. So it is our responsibility being a civil service aspirant to understand what are these programs and whether it is working effectively or not. When we don't prepare, then only these problems will usually come. This is the reason I keep telling repeatedly, it's very important for us to look from prelims point of view certain lines from where questions can come. It is very different from preparing for mains. Mains is all about understanding the concept. Prelims is more about identifying the lines which can become a question. If you can identify those lines and write, high possibility that you crack this exam, because definitely don't you think these are the areas from where questions will come, and usually you can answer 5 to 10 questions which others who have not prepared will not answer. 1000 pages book, when you read once, you will not be in a position to identify important points, but you feel you have read. With that, when you go to the examination hall, it's not important or it will not be easy for you to write. This is the reason why we keep stressing that when you focus on certain exams, you should see it as an exam, and there you have to identify those which comes only from the exam point of view. Unnecessary lines at this time is not important for you. This is the reason I am releasing the video at this point, because everyone will be focusing from prelims point of view. Most of the students, whenever we released in Jan or Feb, they usually see the video and they forget. They tell that sir, we did not revise. Or they say that we actually started reading from both mains and prelims point of view. During revision, we didn't focus on this. We felt we know the questions. And most of the test series also doesn't focus on these type of questions. They just give some questions randomly from the books. So this is where I keep telling you that this year, at least because of huge modifications that has happened in the book, it is important for us to look at. And then guys, in page 304, you have climate change. From here till page 310, every line is important for you because they have actually talked about climate change, different actions taken by India. All these are factual informations and easy for you to remember. Don't miss to read this. 304 to 310, very, very important from both prelims and mains point of view. Then guys, next chapter, page 311, it is very important for us to look at one of the major thing, that is with respect to currency printing. This year demonetization is there, so high possibility there can be a question on that. Third paragraph of page 311, if you actually see, the Directorate of Currency has the administrative control of the Security Printing and Minting Corporation of India Limited, which is actually under Department of Economic Affairs, a wholly owned Government of India corporation that manage Government of India mints, currency presses, security presses and security paper mill. So they can ask you about this. We know that it was in news, but we don't know detailed information. There is further information about currency and coinage, and separately they have printed this year. Earlier this was not there, but now it is available. So it's very important for us to look at these informations carefully. As they have added newly, they also realize that it is important this year, right? So it's very important for you to look at this carefully. In addition to formulating and executing policies and programs relating to designs or security feature of the bank notes and coins and issue of commemorative coins, the Directorate of Currency has been mandated to conduct research and development activities in this area and indigenization of all materials required for production of bank notes and other security products. So this is very important for us, right? After this, in page 314, you have to go through the public debt and other liabilities of the government. This I have already shown you in economic survey. Just try to read this once, because public debt to GDP, credit to GDP, all these are important. I feel one question can come from this area as well. Then in page 320, we have to look at the measures to control inflation, where you have to focus about different measures that are being usually done to control inflation, and you also have to consider the revised monetary policy framework, where they actually talk about plus or minus 2%. I have shown you in economic survey. If you read that in economic survey it's enough. I'm just showing you that it is important again. Then we have to look at page 324, where we are actually studying about the foreign exchange reserves. That is, we have to look at foreign currency assets, gold, SDRs and reserve tranche position in the IMF, right? Foreign exchange reserves, which of the following are there? UPSC has already asked you, so please be careful. Next, please see page number 329. As I told you, here you have currency and coinage. In this, as I have already told you, every line is important this year, mainly because of demonetization. And if you can actually notice, they actually talk about 2 currency note presses and 2 security presses and 1 paper mill, which were earlier functioning under the Ministry of Finance. The company was incorporated in 2006 under the Companies Act of 1956. The companies supply currency, banknotes and coins to RBI, non-judicial stamps to various state governments, and postal stationery and stamps to postal department as well, right? So this information is very important for you. Currency and coinage division. Then in the last paragraph you have security paper mill at Hoshanabad. Then you have bank notes paper mill India Private Limited at Mysore, a JV company between Security Printing and Minting Corporation of India and Bharatiya Reserve Bank Note Mudran Private Limited, right? So please guys go through this carefully, read this at least for this year. So then see page 343, where we are again focusing on the monetary policy framework. 3 to 4 times I have actually discussed about monetary policy framework. Please guys, this is very important. If you can see in current affairs also, economic survey also, India yearbook also, that too explained in detail, high possibility you get a question. Please read every line of this. Anything can become a question. Please try to remember it carefully. Next, in page 344, you can actually see Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, which was released in 2016. The code aims to promote entrepreneurship, availability of credit and balance the interest of all the stakeholders by consolidating and amending the laws relating to organization and insolvency resolution of corporate persons, right? So they actually tell if there is bankruptcy what needs to be done and how exactly we have to work. So less possibility you can get a question, but in mains you can get, so please try to read it once. And then guys, you have G20 in the same page. Very, very important. Try to read everything associated with G20 once. Right? This year there are several issues associated with G20. In current affairs also have discussed about G20. Here, go through it once. Least possibility question will come from this, but if you can read once, it will be beneficial. In page 356, we have to focus on India's quota and ranking with respect to IMF, and it is also important for us to look at IMF's Inter-Monetary and Financial Committee and Joint World Bank IMF Development Committee, which discuss the progress on the work of IMF and World Bank. They have already asked you question about IMFC. Please try to go through this once carefully. Current affairs, international relations, you have to see this once. And then in page 357, you have BRICS New Development Bank, where the focus is actually about who is the first chairman. And also you have to look at which countries have contributed how much. Most importantly, we have to look at the contribution of India in Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. India is the second largest after China, right? Very, very important. They may ask you this particular statement. Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank was of China, NDB is of BRICS. Many thought AIIB will be threat for India, but India has invested, which will actually ensure whenever loans or anything is been given, India is also aware of this. So very, very important. Two topics, NDB and AIIB, both from prelims and mains point of view. Then in page 358, you have Global Environment Facility, where it also serves as financial mechanism for Convention on Biological Diversity, UNFCCC, Stockholm Convention on Persistent Organic Pollutants, UN Convention to Combat Desertification, Minamata Convention on Mercury, and supports implementation of the protocol in the countries with economies in transition for the Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer. It's very important for us to look at all these aspects once. Global Environment Facility, that too with respect to these 8 are important for us. Then see page 370, Atal Pension Yojana. This was the question as last year prelims. Can you see 18 to 40 years? After the subscriber's demise, the spouse of the subscriber shall be entitled to receive the same pension amount as that of the subscriber until the death of the spouse. Can you see? This was exactly as, this is the reason I keep telling you, don't trust any summaries. Just try to read government websites, and if you can identify those lines carefully, it's more than enough. You can score more marks than anybody else. Guys, don't do what majority of the people do, because majority of the people fail in this exam. Only few people who does that smart work will be capable of clearing this exam. Now, after listening to all this and marking, and still if you don't read it, no one can help you. The most important thing that you need to do is just ensure that whatever you are doing, do it with trust and confidence, that you will definitely get a question from this. Then you can see the change in your approach. Then you can see in page 371, Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Bima Yojana. Please go through this carefully once. These are new initiatives. Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana and Pradhan Mantri Jandan Yojana. As you are aware, there can be a question about this again. This time it won't be again what is it? It's promoting financial inclusion. This line was asked, but rather than that, they may ask you about the objectives of PMJDY. Simple to understand, that's why I'm not telling you. Please go through this carefully once. Then in page 374, one of the major program of government is with respect to Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana. Please try to read this carefully again. In Mudra Yojana, you have 3 important things: Shishu, Kishore and Tarun. Based on the age of the enterprise, it has been discussed in this fashion. High possibility they may ask you a question about this. Guys, please read this carefully again, right? High possibility whenever new schemes are introduced by the government, they may ask you about those schemes. Then in page 381, please go through key features of the Companies Act 2013 once. It's for mains, not for prelims. Nothing much to see in this chapter. Let's move quickly to the next chapter. Then in page 391, please see National Food Security Act 2013. For those guys who are giving attempt this year, National Food Security Act 2013 is important. Those who are preparing from long, you will be knowing about this, especially the act provides coverage up to 75% of the rural population and 50% of the urban population and other things. Even about 5 kg food grains at 3, 2, 1, all these will be known. But guys, please remember, this is the year when it is completely implemented by all the states. Supreme Court intervened and told why states are not implementing, and there was a news that all the states now has agreed that they will be going for this. Once all states have done it, high possibility factual data with respect to National Food Security Act can be asked. So just ensure you are going through this carefully once again. Even though you know about it, please try to read the details. You would have forgot the basic information about this. Once if you read, definitely if there is a question, you will be able to answer. Next, in page 397, see Annapurna scheme, where the focus is actually on providing food for all those who are actually not getting pension under NOAPS. That is under National Old Age Pension Scheme. If anybody is excluded, for them Annapurna Yojana was actually brought in. Then in page 405, please go through sugarcane pricing policy once, that is with respect to fair and remunerative price. Please read once. Not required much in detail. If you read once, it's more than enough. Then next page, please try to read new system for distribution of sugar. Again, they can actually ask a question. As it is new system, please go through it once. Rare possibility you can get a question, so you can just read if time permits. And ethanol blending petrol program is always there. Just see from which byproducts you usually get these ethanol. Then in page 410, last page of the chapter, they have actually given about International Grains Council. For the first time they have mentioned about this, and they have also given in India yearbook. So I would request you to go through this once carefully, so that if at all they ask you a question, as I told you, the last paragraphs will be usually important either from prelims or mains point of view. This will be beneficial for you. Right guys? So thank you, thanks for watching. Next session will be taking next 5 chapters.